Well, that's the problem with having multiple channels. You never know where you're going to stream to. So I am streaming to the correct channel now that I want it to go to because I set it up for this channel. Yay! This is probably why I need a producer because I tell you, man, it's not as easy as people think in this stuff set up. It takes quite a while to set up and make sure everything's right.
Well,
and
that's
then,
the problem with having multiple channels. You never
still
know where
messed
you're
up.
going to stream to.
So, anyways, welcome everybody. I had a little blog today that I put out. One of the reasons why is I'm going to be doing a discussion next week with atheist activist and head of some organization somewhere. His name is Randolph Richardson, and I talked to him a little bit on this particular topic, and he wants to try to pick it apart. So what I want to do is, before I talk to him, I want to make sure that I have it pretty well solidified myself. Now, this is a reformulation of an existing argument that I had, but I wanted to make it a little more simplistic for the average person to understand and break it down so to show there actually is a fallacy that exists here, right? A special pleading fallacy. So, well, what you're going to have to do is actually go to the video description to actually find the link to my blog and kind of go through it with us. Because I don't know how to actually show it on Discord because the only stream chat that I have doesn't allow for images, and I don't want to have a stream chat available that has images for obvious reasons. So I will be going through this from the blog. The blog I will put in the live chat itself, and if you guys want to follow along, but kind of help me with this to see if you guys can find any errors in it, because I don't think there is, but you never know. Like I said, I do these things late, and errors can creep in. So that is the link to the blog in the live chat right there. The link to join the Discord and come on in and talk about it is in the video description as well. Actually, it is not. Let me go fix that. Let me give you guys links so you guys come in and join us as well. See, I put it on the other channel. I didn't put it on this channel. We'll get it straightened out. All right, so real quick, has Mr. Serious, Paul, the Giggler, have any of you actually read the blog yet?
Okay, I have not.
Okay. Have you heard the argument before? I mean, at all?
Special pleading? I've heard the argument.
No. My argument that atheists special plead when they hold to atheism as merely not believing.
I have heard your argument on this, and it's probably good that I'm here because I have not been able to fully grasp what you're saying.
Nice.
So I'm missing something.
Okay. Let me just put the link to join the Discord. And we'll be good to go. Okay. So the link to join Discord is in the video description now, and it's actually in the live feed as well. I will be checking as they come in, introduce yourself, and if I get to see who it is, then I can actually give you roles to come on in and actually talk to us. Yay. All right, so let's kind of go to the blog. And like I said, I apologize for the fact that the outside won't be able to see this unless you're actually on the blog itself, but the link is there. So the argument goes like this. And maybe you don't even have to be looking at it, the Giggler, to kind of understand it. But the argument goes, if not believing P is held as atheism, then not believing not P can be held as theism, else you're guilty of special pleading. That's the summation. That is like the entire argument in a nutshell. Okay. Does that make sense so far?
So not believing P is atheism. So P is like God or something.
Yeah, we'll assume that P is the proposition God exists, to make it simple.
And then not believing not P, which is like double negative, would be
Well, it's not double negative. Double negative would be not P. If you believe not P, you believe P. That's a double negative. But not B, not P is not a double negative. Because one's a negative for the proposition, one's a negative for the belief, the predicate. Two different things.
I was stuck in the same place where it came to the symbology.
Okay, so
not believing not P.
Okay,
I believe
not
believing P. I can wrap my head around. Not believing not P is a bit harder to translate.
Okay,
into.
so let's kind of go through this. And again, maybe you don't have to be looking at it to kind of think about this, but you have P or not P, right? P, God exists, or P not P, God does not exist. Those are the two ontological states in classical logic, right?
Yes.
Right.
So if you believe P, you believe God exists, right?
Yes.
And if you believe not P, you believe God does not exist.
Yep.
Okay, so far we're on the same page. Now, if you don't believe P, then it's I don't believe P, or not BP, correct? You don't believe that God exists.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so we're all on the same page. Now, if you do not believe not P, would be I do not believe that God does not exist. Not B, not P.
Right. I don't
When-
hold a belief that God doesn't exist.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Now does it make sense?
Now
I
that
can grasp it a lot
mathematics
better
makes
that way.
sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, as Wolfgang points out, this is pretty entry level. I'm not trying to say that it's that complicated, but a lot of atheists, for some reason, don't, and not you guys here, but a lot of atheists don't want to accept that this is logically a conclusion, and they'll just discount the argument by fiat, or they'll try to character assassinate me rather than actually have to address my argument, which is, a valid argument, because if you say that atheism is merely weak atheism, then you have to allow a theist to say weak theism is theism. Now, I don't know how many theists would actually do that, but you have to allow for that contingency. And let's kind of go through the argument. Yeah, I don't know how this keeps going as a thing, but I have Randolph Richardson, who wants to talk to me about it on my channel next week. So this is kind of a prep work for it, because I want to make sure that I have this written correctly. I want to make sure that the logic is unassailable, and that the atheists that are kind of saying this wrong, not one of them has ever shown why it's wrong. Not one. They just say it by fiat. Matt Dillahunty won't even touch this thing, right? He won't go anywhere near this argument, because what he tries to do, as I think it was who pointed that out, was Maki, was you pointed out, or somebody pointed this out on Twitter, that he only takes one prong of a dilemma at a time, one prong thing at a time, so that he just kind of negates the other side of it. And it's like, wait a minute, if you allow for this, you have to allow for that, or it is an informal logical fallacy of special pleading. All right, so looking at this, my blog is written this way. It says, I wanted to see if I can simplify my atheist special pleading argument, because people have once again been talking about it. It has become renewed a little bit. People have been quite interested in this particular argument, because they're kind of like, well, it has to have some kind of problem, but they can't find it, because to me, I don't think it has one. There's a little more explanatory. This is a little more explanatory, I think, with much more succinct summation at the end. So as simplified as I make the argument, not BP is held as atheism, then not BP and not B can be held as theism, else you're guilty of special pleading. I tell people they can jump to the very bottom for they don't need the logical steps. So do you guys want me to just read the summation, or do you want me to go through each step by step logically to see if it helps? Because I kind of want to see if the logic holds. So
Yeah, we can go through each step. So far you've helped me with that one step that I was having trouble with. So I'm gonna see if I get tripped up again.
Okay. So let me pull this up. And by the way, please come in and join us. I am watching the live chat a little bit, but I can't say that I can watch it fully and do this at the same time, and try to see who comes in to make sure I give them roles so they can join us. I do have it set for introduction, so if you come in, introduce yourself, and then I can give you roles. I'm going to bring a couple people in right now first. This is why I have moderators that should be doing this. Hint. All right.
What?
I'm just kidding. Mods don't do anything. Yeah.
I want to give Helios a roll.
If he joins the Discord. Yeah, intriguing feline. Logic holds, read through it. Thank you. But let's go through it. So I start off with a simple general form. And by the way, I actually used the other case phi, but this changed it when I put it in the in my blog. It's really weird. I used a different symbol, but it's okay. So this is given the general form phi v or not phi, okay? Which is basically saying these are a formula. So it's any formula you stick in there, it's going to be the case in general conditions. It is the case or it is not the case. And you can use phi or rho. I've used either. And I'm not sure which ones. I think one is for more atomic and one's for more molecular, but I'm not positive. You'd have to get into somebody who knows symbolic logic much better than me. But for all practical purposes, that's just saying that that's the general form. You're going to instantiate either one of those symbols with anything, and you're going to get, so for example, if I say the sky is blue, or the sky is not blue, or it is not the case the sky is blue, right? That's kind of simple logic. That's law of excluded middle. It's called actually condition. It's called bivalence, right? So
It's like a true dichotomy.
this is an actual dichotomy. Yes, in classical logic, it is the case or it is not the case. Okay, so Everybody agreeing on that? We'll go step by step, make sure everybody agrees.
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
So if you instantiate that with P, you get the proposition. You get that any proposition you have P or not P. Again, very simple, right? I don't think anybody's going to question that. This means that it is the case that P is true, or it is not the case that P is true. Right? Symbol V stands for or, exclusive or. So they cannot both be true, and they both cannot be false. It is the case that one has to be true and the other has to be false. So P is either true or P is false. There's no other conditions in the law of excluded middle that Darwin's deity always talks about when it comes to a proposition in classical logic. Right? And in this case, not true happens to mean false. Right?
Exclusive or is a logic gate in computer engineering.
It is, and the thing with the thing with gates though, they're not always exactly what it is in logic. There are some just differences between a logic and intuitious logic. What is it? Intuitious logic or formal logics or some other for example, you can actually say but, and but is actually the same as and, or what is it? What is it logically? But is considered in. Oh, I think you put it as the and symbol. But anyways, there's some differences between the gates and. All right, so I do use this intrigue feline that square has four sides. I will use that. It is the case that square has four sides, or it is not the case that square has four sides, right? And I was also argue that a square having all four sides is a metaphysical necessity. But let's move on. All right, so P or not P is simply saying that it is the case that P is true, or it is the case that P is false. Example: all squares have four sides. P or not P would then be P. All squares have four sides, and not P would be all squares do not have four sides. Correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Now, if I believe P, I believe the squares have all four sides, right? Which would be the correct belief, right? That is a belief that I consider to be justified, and you could probably argue it's knowledge, okay? If I said I believe not P, that all squares do not have four sides, I would have a false belief, but I still can have that belief, right?
Yes.
Okay. Given the predicate a belief where B is believes or believes that, I'm using believes that because it just flows better, then it is the case, either the case that you believe P, or it is not the case that you believe P. So it is either the dichotomy is you believe P or you do not believe P, right? That's the dichotomy. Either you do believe or you don't believe. There's no middle ground there to be had.
Are we not using the not P? We're using not believe P?
Well, I'm going to get into why that's going to be the dichotomy here in a second. If I have the given form of we're going to say phi versus not phi, or then if phi is equal to the BP, then if you instantiate that general formula, and I'll put it in the live chat so people that don't follow along, this is what it looks like logically. Given that general form, if I stick in BP in that general form, I'm going to end up with BP, V, not BP. Can you guys see that? I'll put it in here too, so if you're not following along. I'm going to put it in the philosophy members only, if you can see it there. Can you see that? And I'll also put in the GDC stream chat, I think. Yeah. So that's what it would look like. And I see more people coming in here, so 1 second. So does that formalization make sense to you?
Yes. And when you add stuff to this formula, you have to keep it like you can't mess around with where the not is and stuff like that. It's got to be exactly like that, but you add in stuff where the phi's are.
Yeah, and that's why I call it the scope of the negation. I'm giving the people that just joined, I just give you roles. You're welcome to come in now to the okay. So yeah, so that formalization is basically saying that anything you put in there has to be, it is the case or not the case. So it is the case you believe, or it is not the case you believe. There's no middle ground to be had. So it's pretty simple, right? Let me look in the outside chat. Anybody good to go on that?
Yeah,
I'm good.
Okay. So the scope of negation, therefore, is the case that you believe P or BP, or it is not the case you believe P, which would be not BP. Now suppose the proposition is God exists. Okay, and this is going to include God existed and all that happy horse stuff. I mean, if you think that God existed at one time but disappeared and walked away or became the universe, I'm still going to include that in this. You can argue semantics all you want. I don't care. This is essentially saying God exists or it has existed at one period of time. Okay, just arguendo, accept it. If not, make your own proposition. It really is unimportant. I've had actually people argue, well, when God doesn't exist any longer, whatever. Okay, this is making it simplistic, right? God exists, which is a B theory of time. If he existed at one time, he exists at all times. So he exists somewhere in the past, right? In B theory of time. So given in general acceptance, it is given that it's generally accepted that if you believe God exists, you're a theist. So given believe P, believes God exists. If one does not believe P, then by shown by one must hold to not be P, then not be P does not believe God exists. Again, this is not even contentious at this point. BP is believes God exists, not BP does not believe God exists, right? Pretty simple so far. Theism. Yep. What, we got a question?
Oh no, I was just agreeing.
Okay. Theism would then BP believes God exists, and the non-acceptance. And notice I use the word non-acceptance, not rejection, because rejection means the acceptance of the negation. But I say the non-acceptance of BP would be not BP, which is often referred to as weak atheism, or merely lacking a belief God exists. So logically, when somebody says, I lack a belief God exists, or I do not believe God exists, they're holding to not BP. Right? Because there's only two things they can hold to. Either they believe that God exists, or they do not believe that God exists.
But you're not saying that they would then believe that no gods exist? Is that the same thing?
Right, it doesn't entail that. Right, sure.
Right. Okay, yeah, then I'm following.
Yeah, because I mean, I would fall under, in this particular dichotomy, I would fall under weak atheism, right? Because if I don't use that terminology, by the way, I'm not a fan of weak atheism. I reject the uses of it, but I'm using this as their usages, right? But I am not BP. I do not believe God exists. I'm a non-believer, right? So BP would be somebody who believes, not BP would be somebody who does not believe, in the way I use these terms, personally, right? You either believe or you don't believe. Yeah, I mean, you believer or a non-believer. That's it. There's no other option. So I'm a non-believer. So not BP is non-believer. But they call it weak atheism. This is where the semantics comes in. They're running a semantic argument, kind of somewhat. All right. So merely holding to weak atheism and lacking belief. You now have theism as believe P, believes that God exists. Weak atheism as not BP or does not believe God exists. And some people refer to weak atheism as merely as weak atheism, where weak case here refers to the position of does not believe. So what they're doing is they're saying, okay, theism is believes that God does not exist. If you do not believe that, you are a weak atheist. You hold to the position does not believe God exists, and therefore we're going to call that atheism. Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything so far I don't think is very contentious. I think this is pretty standard. I think this is exactly what they kind of say. Yeah, it's funny because they accuse me of making semantic arguments. You're right, Wolfgang, and I don't. I don't even like semantic arguments. I'm using their semantic arguments here because of necessity, because this is their usages, right? But I don't use the term weak atheism. I don't think it's really makes any sense to really do so. But according to their structure, that weak atheism would just be somebody who does not believe, but they're going to call that atheism. Now, given that the not P is God does not exist, and weak referring to merely holding a position does not believe, then believing not B, or excuse me, not P, believing the negation would be not B, not P. I do not believe God does not exist, right? So if you don't believe the proposition, you don't believe the proposition P. If you don't believe the negative, the negation, you don't believe not P. Since you don't believe is not B, then if you don't believe the negation, it is not B, not P, as I explained before. Right?
Right. So you don't believe that they do exist, and you don't believe that they don't exist.
Exactly. And by the way, you just gave the logical designation for agnosticism. Not BP and not B, not P. A person who does not believe God exists and does not believe God does not exist. So that is very good. All right. So if B not P entails not BP, logically, because if you believe, now this is very important here. If you believe there's no gods, that entails you do not believe that God exists.
Yeah.
Not the converse, right? But if I say I believe there are no gods, I'm saying I do not believe in gods. That is logically entailed by that statement. Now, the converse doesn't hold, though. If somebody says, I do not believe God exists, they're not by necessity saying they hold to the belief God does not exist, right? Logically. Does that make sense, Diggler? Let me see if I can make it simple. I believe the sky is blue entails I do not believe the sky is not blue. Right?
I think I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is when you say started off with you believe, then you're making a belief claim. But when you do not believe, you're not making like pretty much any claim except for excluding one thing from your belief system.
Sort of. Yeah, I'm sort of. I mean, I still a belief position is a second order belief position, but it's more along the lines of if I hold a proposition to be true, then I clearly do not hold it to be false.
I was making a quick sketch of this,
Okay.
and believe, not believe, clear dichotomy, right? One of these things is the
Yes.
case.
Believe, not believe
The
is a
moment we had
dichotomy.
The moment we add the proposition, we've now got 4 options, as I see it. And so believe proposition, theism, not believe proposition, or believe not proposition. One of those two is atheism, but it leaves us 2 extra categories either way.
What other categories?
If you follow. You know what? As much as I hate to do it, I could send you a quick screenshot of a diagram.
Sure.
But yeah, because
because you only have if you only have one proposition, you can only have 2 states in that proposition. Either you believe or you don't believe. Now there are other states like okay, we're talking about classical logic.
I'll send you a shot.
Sure. Now there are other positions like I believe P or I believe not P, right? Those are other positions, right? Or I believe neither, which is agnosticism, or I believe both, right? But those
which is confusing.
Yeah, which is confusing, but those are other positions if you're talking about those categories, right? I can say, here's P, I don't believe P and I don't believe not P, but now I'm involving 2 propositions. With respect to the single proposition, they can only believe or not believe without adding the negation. Right? If I'm just talking about P and I'm not talking about not P, with respect to just P, either you believe P or you not believe P. Now, if you add in not P, you can either believe or not believe not P, right? That's what your 4 categories. Is that what you're talking about? Because that's true. But the dichotomy here is you either believe P or you do not believe P. The why you do not believe P can be because you believe not P, or you have no belief either way.
So if you have a not believe P, that's I mean, just from that alone, can you determine if somebody is an atheist?
No.
And you can also not determine if they're agnostic?
No, you can't, because agnostic would have to be somebody who suspend judgment. They could actually be a theological cognitivist, even though they would hold that that has no meaning. If you take it to a higher epistemic position, a theological cognitivist doesn't believe in God either, right? Neither with an ichtheist or an apatheist or quite a few number of other positions.
But now you're mixing epistemology with doxestis.
Yeah,
doxestic position.
The logic is the same, right? Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this is why I'm not going to get involved in those other positions, right? You basically have theist or you have not theist. You have believer or not believer, right? Now, why somebody doesn't believe, why somebody who says I do not believe in gods, it could be because they hold the various epistemic positions, all differing, but they're logically the same. Just like I can say Christianity and Judaism are both logically theism, right? They're both BP. But they're quite a different positions. I mean, a Christian is not a Jew, right? And a Jew is not a Christian. A Christian is not a Muslim. But all 3 of them fall under theism. This is why when you talk about not theism or non-believer, there's different subcategories. Atheism, agnosticism, ichtheism, theological cognitivism. Those are all different positions, right? Even though they're logically all non-believers, right? Same for the same exact reasons as
so you're saying
Jew.
That this, like when you're trying to, I guess, label somebody, even though I hate labels, but you have to do it. When you label somebody like atheist or agnostic, it's too complicated to rely on just one proposition to figure any of that out.
Well, unless somebody says, like, for example, canonically speaking, if somebody says they believe God exists, they're a theist, right? Would you wouldn't balk at that, right?
I would have to make the assumption that they don't not believe God exists at the same time.
Well, if they believe God exists, then they reject the negation. They do not believe that God does not exist. right? They reject that would be the atheist position.
Ah, I see. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm
The
seeing
hard
what you're
atheist,
saying.
the strong atheist.
And if you believe not P, then that means you have to not believe P.
Correct.
Because
it entails that, yes.
as soon as you have a believe, as soon as you put yourself down the road of one of these believe ones, then you kind of automatically check in with the negation too.
Yeah. And Kimmy says theological cognitivism wouldn't even get this far as right, and that's why I don't want to get into the depths of
I
theological
put my
cognitivism.
2x2 grid in the general chat. I don't think I can find to put it up.
General
So I'm just
chat.
wondering, of the 4 quadrants, where do we apply atheism? Where do we apply theism? Where do neither
Okay,
apply?
so the first one would be theism. The second one would be not theism, which is what people are trying to call weak atheism, which they actually call atheism now, by some people. The bottom would be not. Is that not B, not P?
That was a scribble. That was believing, not P.
Oh, believing, not P. Okay, that would be atheist, strong, right? Philosophical
Strong
atheist. And the next
So,
one would be not believing the atheist, or weak theism.
Right. So on the left side, we've got strong theism, atheism. On the right column, we've got weak
Yes.
theism. I'm sorry, weak atheism,
weak
and
theism.
theism.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Very good.
So we're on the same page now.
Yes, we are. Okay. Yeah.
So there are 4 options, but 2 of them collapse because you can't believe P and simultaneously not believe not P.
Well, I'm not going to get into the
I don't know
whole
that-
Moore's
yeah,
paradox
I
and
think
things like that. That you can have some weird
it
things
feels-
happen with peculiar reasoning, but for all practical purposes,
It feels
go ahead.
it feels like all 4 are very defensible.
Well,
All
All 4
although
individually, but once you
the
start
weak-
looking at things
weak
like
theism is the weirdest one.
well, BP
The
entails
not
not
believe, not
BP,
P.
right? The top left entails top right, and the bottom left implies.
I love that we have a chart now. So the
Yeah.
top left implies
So
bottom
BP
right.
BP implies
Yes.
you don't believe P, right?
Yes, but not
Wait.
the converse.
Let's see, not believe.
Top left implies bottom right.
Top left
Right, but
implies
bottom
yeah.
right does
There you go.
not
Top
imply
left
top
implies bottom right, and top right implies
But bottom right does not imply top left. In the same way, bottom left implies top right, but not the converse.
No.
No.
The only BP entails not B, not P. There
This
is
is
no
where-
similar entailment between the other options.
The
I'm
bottom.
finding
Okay,
myself
hang
in
on.
a very strange place. I didn't.
Wait, the bottom left entails the top right, right? Believes not P entails not BP,
Yes.
and top left entails the bottom right.
Okay, so the
Yes.
left column entails the opposite row on the right column.
So I guess in simpler terms, for people not looking at the chart, the strong position always entails the corresponding weak position,
Logically.
but not the converse.
Yes,
Right,
logically, not necessarily epistemically, but logically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, I guess it would be logically and epistemically, but the converse doesn't necessarily hold, right? Because if I don't believe P, it doesn't necessarily mean that I believe P. But there are some epistemic issues because if you hold to BP, that it does entail not BP, but the weak atheist says not BP is necessary and sufficient to be called atheist, right? The agnostic says otherwise. So not BP, just by holding that position, we don't know if you're atheist or agnostic or something else, right? It doesn't tell us. But if you say, I believe there are no gods, we know that you're an atheist because that is constitutive of any type of atheist, right? That is clearly a necessary condition and sufficient, no matter what you believe, right? Go ahead.
If I follow the argument, the left column is giving nobody any logical problems, theoretically, right?
Yeah, you either believe P
we
or
can
you
all
don't
accept
believe P.
that left column. Right.
Well, no.
It's
not the bottom. It's not the left. It's the top. The top is dichotomous. The bottom's not. BP versus B, not P, is not a dichotomy. The dichotomy is BP versus not BP.
So maybe it's this weird, and this is exactly the point of your blog, I think, is it's this weird bottom right corner.
Yeah, a lot of people have a hard time accepting that one.
problematic.
But if you look at it
Right,
rationally, look at it very carefully. What is it saying? It is just saying that you don't accept the belief that God does not exist.
So if we see that the left column necessarily entails a square from the right column, then there is a dichotomy in this graph of 4 choices. right?
And that's where the
But-
issue comes in, is because you've got two essentially separate, although entangled propositions, P and not P.
Yeah, this is the weird part, is that the top right corner, right, which, this is so hard,
The
is
weak
soft
atheism
atheism.
corner,
The,
soft
the, the weak
atheism.
the weak atheism corner is a dichotomy with both boxes in the left column. That's
No, it's
what
not.
gets confusing
No,
to me.
no.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
Okay.
Yeah. If not, it's not dichotomous to the bottom left. It's dichotomous to the top left. You either believe
You either don't believe P.
P or you do not believe P. Look where the scope of the negation is. The scope of the negation
Right.
is on the predicate, right?
Right.
So you're talking about the proposition. You're not talking about not P. You're talking about P. So if you hold P to be the predicate, then you have BP, or the negation of that belief, of the predication. So either you believe P or you negate the belief, which is I do not believe P. You're not negating the proposition. You're negating the predicate.
I'm so glad I made this little chart.
Yeah, no, it's helpful. Yeah, that's right. I mean,
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, looking at just the syntax of it, right? How we express these things mathematically, to me, maybe it's just me, but like graphically, it's
that's
more
fine.
helpful.
I got
and
no
then
problem with that.
what we want to do is take this little, 4-square chart we made and really make a Venn diagram of the possibilities.
Well, look. Okay,
That
so
might
read
be
these off to
enlightening.
yourself. So, like the first quadrant, BP is, and as you do that, I'm gonna give you the conclusion here in the live chat because, well,
All right, one more time.
read them off to make sure we're on the same page. I'll actually put them in the general too.
From
Actually,
top left to bottom right.
yeah, let me put the whole conclusion in the bottom here in the general real quick, so then I can put it in the live chat. So, what's the first box?
First block is BP.
Okay, so that would we agree would be theism, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just put that in the live chat. Everybody's on board with that. The next one would be go to the right.
If we go to the right, then I can't find the chat. Sorry.
No, just look in your box, top upper quadrant.
Yeah, no, that's what I can't find, unfortunately. Damn it. There we go.
It's in general.
So moving from theism to the right, we have not BP. Don't believe proposition.
Okay, does not believe God
proposition.
exists, right?
Right, which
Okay.
is our weak atheism.
All right, so I just put that in the live chat. We're on board there. So far, so good.
Okay.
Now, would you agree, though, some atheists are going to call that position atheist?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, absolutely.
All right,
Yeah.
awesome. All right, so next box.
The next box got
The B, not P.
Did we lose him?
I don't know.
Well, I guess in the interim, I have a question that's been in my head for a while. When it comes to these conclusions, if you take either of the belief, like the ones that start with a believe, the positive, just with that you can conclude that somebody is a theist or atheist. Is that correct?
Yeah, because if you hold a belief, if somebody says I believe God exists, you conclude they're theist. So if they say I believe God does not exist, you conclude they're atheist. Absolutely. Because you're
But when
telling
it
people they're
comes to-
beliefs. When you're talking about what you don't believe, who the hell knows? It's vague. It's like me saying, "Hey, Mr. Serious, what do you want for chicken?" And you say, "I don't want." I say, "What do you want for dinner?" And you say, "I don't want chicken." I can't make any conclusion on that, except that you don't want chicken.
Well,
But I don't know what the hell I have.
I mean,
right?
that would make me a female, I think.
Make you indecisive. But if you say, "Hey, Steve, I want duck," hey, I know you want duck, right? Because I know something
Sexist,
about
Mr.
you.
Serious.
I like duck.
I think the Venn diagram of this will be really interesting. I'll try to make one for
All
you.
right. All right, so where are we at here? So the bottom left corner, B not P, what is that to you then? Because again, this is my conclusion. I think we're on the same
Right.
page.
So that's our strong atheist position.
Strong atheist position, right. So believes that God does not exist. I just put that in the live chat. Absolutely spot on so far. All right, so now this is the one that a lot of people have a hard time with. But
Yes.
but read it out
Bottom
to you carefully. What does it say? What if you were to translate that?
Not B, not P is I do not believe that God doesn't exist.
Exactly. Now,
I think for a lot of people, I could translate this just really quickly into my wife's position of I'm afraid that he might.
yeah. Now let's say
Is
though,
that theist or atheist?
if well, your reasoning, your justification is not really important at the moment as to propose what your position actually is, right? Why you have the position, then we can get into, right? But because this is
the beauty though, right?
But because this is, hang on one second, because this is a not
Yeah.
position, this is weak theism, right? Because
Yeah.
if weak atheism is not BP, then not B, not P has to be construed as weak theism by the same reasoning.
One more beautiful point to this graph, and I love this, and it just hit me just now. If we look at that left column, we have
That's strong.
Right. We have an assertion that must be defended. If we look in the right column, we don't. Whether
yes and
you're
no.
whether
There's not
you're a
assertion to
weak
be
theist or a
defended
weak
per
atheist,
se, but there actually is. There's a second order
I
assertion
don't
being
know.
made.
Let's look at this. To me, the burden of proof lies in that left column.
No,
I don't see a burden of proof in the right column.
that's where you make your error, though, because you're
Okay,
taking
explain.
a position. This is not believing something is a second order belief position. It's still a belief position, but it's not a first order one. Because it's a second order belief position, it still requires justification as to why you do not believe. And let me give you a specific example. If I say, hey, Giggler, I exist, and you say, hey, Steve, I don't believe you exist, most people consider that to be a condition of irrationality, right? They could say, hey, Giggler, you don't believe that Steve exists? You're kind of insane. Because as a society, we have certain norms. And as conditions of rationality, you have to accept that certain things are true, like external minds exist. If you say, Steve, I don't believe you exist, and you don't give me any reasoning behind that, your proof, burden of proof, that would be considered to be irrational. Most people would agree with that. So what's the difference when it comes to God?
I'm so glad you chose that example, Steve, because the only thing I know about you is that you're a person I met on Discord, and I have no good reason to believe you actually exist.
You really think that there are AIs that come into this?
That's the point. I'm not taking.
So you're holding an irrational position then. You admit your position is irrational if that's the case.
I'm saying that I honestly think that I have no good reason to. Well, I've got a few good reasons, although they're somewhat weak.
You haven't seen me on YouTube. You don't think that people come into Discord and talk?
I actually haven't seen you on YouTube, and yeah, I'm dicking around a little bit. I have good reason, but scale of 0 to 100, believing that this person exists. Yeah, I'm at 90.
No, I mean, I would say that if you were to argue, hey, Steve, I have no justification that you're an external mind, I would agree with you, right? If you say, hey, Steve,
by the way,
that is something a faith-based.
I'm certainly.
One sec, that is a faith-based commitment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm certainly not trolling.
No.
I'm just doing what you seem to ask for at the beginning.
yeah, no, I know. But let me show you the difference in your argument. If you were to say, hey, if I'd say, Giggler, I believe that you are an external mind, but I'm not justified to do it. That's fine. Right, but I do believe that you exist. For me to say that I don't believe you're an external mind, I think that's irrational. Because it's a condition of rationality to think that presuppose there are external minds. Because as a society, we cannot function if we don't believe that other external minds exist. We don't have empathy for them. We don't have compassion. It is an irrational position. So we are kind of forced to conclude that. Go ahead.
If I were to throw out to you right now my real name, would you have good reason to believe I exist?
Yes, I believe you exist now. I hold that belief.
If I gave you my real name right now, like literally, I could pull any name out of my ass.
I don't care if you call yourself Santa Claus. You as a person exist. What you call yourself is irrelevant. That's a signifier.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just.
We can't have a belief in your name without justification, but we can have belief in your existence.
Yeah, I mean, if you said, "Hey, Steve, do you believe that's my name?" Then I was like, "That's a different question, right?" But we don't have to accept your name to be your name to have a condition of rationality. We do have to have people believe that external minds exist to be rational. Just like we have to accept universe is external to the mind, right? If you think the entire universe is in your head, I don't think you're going to do well in society. You know, it's not a very rational position.
Steve, I have to duck out. I'm late for work, but just before I go, the positions that you can hold on this graph, you can hold two positions independently. Or dependently, I guess, from the left column and the right. But you can hold both of the right column positions simultaneously. You can't hold both of the left ones.
Okay, yes and no. You can hold both of the right ones. That's called agnosticism, logically. The left, you kind of could, but it would be in a rational state, right?
Yeah, so rational mind can hold both positions on the left, but a rational mind can hold both positions on the right.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
Thank you so much for pointing that out. It never crossed my mind that that's the case, that the left column can't be rational.
Correct.
Both right column beliefs can be held.
The reason being is because those are dichotomous, right? That's why.
Would that be called cognitive dissidence?
Well, actually, it's a little more complicated than that. There's something called Moore's law, or Moore's paradox, and it goes into purely reasoning. I think to me, to say that you hold a contradicting position, it's more than it could be contradictory dissonance. I mean, that could be true, right? You could have a reason to hold a position and a reason to hold the position to be false, and not simultaneously your brain not recognizing it. You're compartmentalized, right? That is true. Yeah, cognitive dissonance would be a form of BP and B, not P, right? Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm learning stuff.
Yeah. I think it'd be much harder to make an argument that you can hold a BP and not BP at the same time. Again, there are probably ways around it in dosastic logic, but we're talking about classical logic. Because in dosastic logic, you can have weird things like, I believe it's raining outside, but it's... no, you can say, it's raining outside, but I do not believe it's raining outside. There's a linguistic problem there in Moore's paradox called peculiar reasoning, that you're holding differing positions simultaneously, but that's only allowed in dosastic logic, not classical. To explain it, at least. But anyway, so far we're so good, though. So let's go back to the weak theism. So if weak atheism is not BP, then it has to follow by using this form that weak theism is not B, not P. You okay with that, Giggler? So you have theism strong on the top.
Sorry,
and you have
takes a bit to unmute. One more time.
All right, so you have theism strong on the top, weak theism strong on the right, top. Then on the bottom you have atheism strong, and then to the right of that you have weak theism. It's just that's how the quadrants would work.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you accept weak atheism as atheism, then the theist could come along and say, well, you're a weak theist. Therefore, I'm just going to call you a theist. Therefore, a theist can say, if you do not accept the proposition that God does not exist, you are a weak theist. Therefore, you are a theist. The same exact way an atheist is saying, well, if you don't accept the proposition that God exists, you're a weak atheist, and we're just going to call you atheist. The reasoning is exactly the same. If not, you are doing special believing.
I think that might be a tautology.
What is?
That idea. Again, my kids are pulling my finger to play catch right now. Sorry about that. But I really want to make a Venn diagram out of this because I think that's exactly the case. That's the case. We have both strong and weak versions of both of these things. And there is a case that left column implies right column, but right column does not imply left. I don't know.
Right, and that the converse
I'm going to
hold.
keep trying following.
Yeah, no, I mean, E. Monk puts it perfectly. He says all BP are not B, not P, but all not P are not P. Okay, that's kind of hard to mouthful. Oshkosh Pajosh puts he puts a diagram in there that's actually Dr. Malpass's diagram, which is accurate, which is what I use. But so all the people that believe do not believe the negation. They they have to hold that they don't believe the negation. But all the people that hold the negation is true, right, do not hold the proposition's true. So if I do not believe God exists, I hold the proposition of theism. I don't believe the proposition of theism, right? Simple as that. I mean, I do not believe theism, therefore I do not believe, right? I would be not BP. Does that make sense?
Let me see. I'm trying to follow here. One more time.
All who hold negation to be false, all that hold the strong atheism, all that hold the belief that God does not exist, do not believe the proposition is true.
Right.
Right? So all not BP, all not P are not BP. But the converse is not always going to be held, right? Not BP does not entail you have to hold that gods do not exist. One is a subset of the other.
Right. Strong atheism entails weak atheism.
Yeah, logically speaking, right? But not epistemically speaking, because weak atheist I'm using here to be someone who strictly holds that not BP is both a sufficient and a necessary and sufficient condition to be called atheism, right?
Okay.
So I wouldn't say that strong theism entails weak atheism epistemically, but it does logically.
Yeah.
That kind of like saying, if you're a theist, let's see, logically all theists would entail Christianity or Judaism or something like that, the position of belief, right? But it doesn't tell you which position you hold, right?
Right.
So if I say I'm a
I
theist,
may have to.
that entails I am some sort of theist, but I don't know which kind. Here it is, you're some sort of atheist, but that just means you don't believe the proposition is true. Yeah, go ahead.
I may have to check out audibly for a bit. I'm still following.
Stories.
To me, like the logical case was enough to wrap my head around. When you bring the epistemology into it, I'm gonna have to think a little harder and then get back.
Yeah, because there's epistemic considerations
keep
to be
listening
had,
then.
right?
Yeah.
Because if I just say merely, I'm a theist, it doesn't tell you what type of theist you are. It doesn't tell you you're a Christian or Jew, right? But all Jews and all Christians and Muslims are theist. So all people that believe, right, would hold that the proposition of atheism. They don't hold to the proposition of atheism, right? It would be a contradictory to say, I believe God exists and I believe God does not exist, right? So if you think the proposition of atheism is the proposition that God does not exist, then if you don't believe that, then the theist comes along and says, look, you don't hold to that position, so you're a weak theist. And I'm just going to call that theist. So anybody who doesn't accept there are no gods is a theist using the same schema.
So if I can try to reflect that a bit, there's the logical case, but then when we bring epistemology into it, it's the question of, do you have a good reason to be in the square you're currently in?
Yeah, that's epistemology would deal with that. Sure, you know, why do you believe or why you do not believe? Those are epistemic reasons. But what I often hear is a defeater, or somebody thinks a defeater comes in and says, because they're using a different schema, they're coming and say, well, how could you be a theist and not believe in God? Well, for the same reason of how could you be an atheist without holding the belief that gods don't exist? Because that's what atheism is construed to be, right? So if you're holding to the paradigm that theism is the belief that God exists, that's the same paradigm that holds that atheism is the belief that God does not exist. That's the same philosophical schema. But if you want to change that and say, look, I'm no longer going to hold to that schema. I'm going to make up my own schema and say, oh, okay, anybody who doesn't accept the proposition of theism is an atheist. Then you have to allow for a theist to say, well, anybody who doesn't accept the proposition of atheism that there is no gods, or weak atheism, is a theist. Oh, excuse me, weak theist would be a theist. It's just that simple. It is guilty pleading not to allow them to.
Ooh, that's
Intrigued.
interesting.
Was your diagram intrigued? Did you send it to me? Sorry, I got a million things going on. Where'd you send it?
No worries.
Where I got confused about this in your thing here, because I did look at this before your what do you call it, the equation, or I don't know what you call that one, just the the BP or not BP and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had issues. It confused me the most on the left when all of these had labels attached to them, and like, I mean, I know you're using like weak atheism, not because you would want to, but you kind of need not like none of these on their own would indicate what's on the left exactly, right? You have to have two.
Well, the
right?
the top right would be theism, the top left would be not theist, the bottom would be atheist, and the left bottom would be not atheist.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not. I can't see the chart. Is the chart like one of those where you have like two on the top and two on the side, and then they combine in boxes?
Did you see the Gigglers chart?
I did not.
It's in general chat. So go to general where it says members only. Scroll up a little bit, and Giggler posted something. Can you see that? And while you're doing that, let me look in stream chat.
Hastily drawn and not my best work.
I see it.
The strong feline put one in stream chat that's better, I think. So let me look at the top there. Strong theism, believe the existence of God. Yeah. Weak theism does not believe the existence of God. Well, it's not false though, right? The tree feline in your diagram, you can't put false there because they're not claiming that it's false, right? They're just saying they're not accepting. They're not claiming the rejection. So that part of the diagram needs to be changed. You need to remove the false in there. Believes the existence of no God, strong atheism, and same things. You're believing the proposition to be false, but the not B, not P does not necessarily believe that is true. And that's not a double negative either. So those are two things you need to change. Not B, not P is not a double negative. This is a double negative, right? Not P, because not P equals P, but not P, and this is the problem that is not, that's not a double negative. Even Aaron had that problem too, and he got corrected on it. He thought that not B, not P is a double negative. It's not. Those are two different negators. The scopes are different. One scope is on the predicate. One scope is on the proposition. You know, and I don't think that Venn diagram is correct either. No, because then you have strong as a subset of weak. Well, let me think here. Yeah, I guess so. Because you just include the other things. But yeah, I get all strong atheists would have to include weak atheist logically. So yeah, I guess that'd be right. Okay, but the top is wrong because those are not false positions, right? You can't say that not B P holds to a false position. It'd only be a false position if you hold to B not P. No, but it doesn't. Intrigue feline. You cannot remove both the negators and do that, right? Because not believe, not P does not translate to theism. That's why it's not a double negation. If I say I do not believe God exists, I do not believe it is the case that God does not exist. I could remove that and hold to a neither position and say, you know what, I have no position either way. Or I don't hold the position that God does exist. It doesn't necessarily mean that I hold a position that God does or doesn't exist. Yeah, you can't remove those negators and say it's theism. As I do not believe God does not exist. That would hold to multiple different positions, right? I mean, that is true for a theist, by the way, right? A theist would say, I do not hold that God does not exist. But BP, not P, does not entail BP. Just like B, not PP does not entail BP for the same reasoning. If you don't hold that position that God exists, that doesn't mean necessarily you hold that there are no gods. Here's the same thing. Just because you do not hold the case that God does not exist, it doesn't necessarily mean that you hold the case that God does exist. So, yeah, I don't see a dichotomy there. But anyways, so yeah, on your chart there, I think if you got rid of the false and got rid of the double negation, it'd be okay. And got rid of the true. So only on the left-hand side can you say true and false because you're holding to a true or false position. On the right side, there is no true and false because you're not holding to a true or false position, right? Yeah, there's no double negative there. So if you want to fix your diagram on the top, remove the false on the top right, remove the true on the bottom right, and remove notice the double negative, and you should be okay. And then repost it. I wish you guys on the outside can see this, but I know you can't. But
that's a great graphic, though.
Yeah, no, it was. Yes, I like it's the fact that she actually took the time to do it. But yeah, that would have to be corrected. But anyways, the giggle. So you kind of see the argument now is that when people you get rid of the double negative too. That's not a double negative. Not P, right. It's just simply is not a double negative.
I'm looking at bottom right, and I'm thinking, not believing God doesn't exist. Does that imply not theist? I'm not sure it does.
Not believing the wait.
Because so bottom right, because it is
So I do not believe that God does not exist. That doesn't necessarily imply theist, but a theist would hold to that position. A theism entails that, right? A theist who says I believe there are no gods entails I do not believe the proposition of atheism.
So top left implies bottom right. Right?
Yes.
So both top left is theism, bottom left is potentially theism.
Top left implies right,
bottom
actually.
Right. Top left implies bottom right. Too.
Okay. Hang on. Strong theism. Okay, so strong. Yes, top left implies bottom right, and bottom right implies top left. Yes.
That's interesting too.
Yes.
So now we have
you're right.
This dichotomy between top left and top right, but top left implies bottom right, and the reverse is true for bottom left.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Because theism theism would imply you don't believe. Let's make it simple. For arguendo, if P is God exists, then the negation God does not exist. We're going to call that the proposition of atheism. Just to make it easier to just think of it that way. So if you see P, think theism. You see not P, think atheism, as in the belief there's no gods. All right, so in the bottom, you have not B, not P, which means they don't accept atheism. They don't accept there are no gods. A theist would say, I don't accept there are no gods, right?
Right.
So a strong theist is a weak. A strong theist implies weak theism.
So bottom right is
Logically.
theism. Right.
And
top right is atheism.
Yeah, the bottom is the same way. Strong atheism, right? If you say, I believe there are no gods, that definitely implies that you do not believe the existence of God.
Yeah.
Strong implies weak. Right?
But not
So-
the converse.
But not the converse, correct.
Right.
I mean, the way I'm trying to think of this in my head, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I don't know, is that all of these separately don't lead to any labels, really. They have to, like, they come in pairs, where the ones that imply the opposite, they have to be together, and then when you have the not believe, it doesn't mean anything on its own. You have to have the other not believe in there too for it to mean anything.
Well, not necessarily. Look at this. Okay, let's kind of label these things the way you guys would want to label it. Okay, so the very first quadrant, we're going to start the upper left. We're going to call that quadrant 1. Okay, even though I think in math is different. What is it? 1 starts on the first.
I'd have gone with Q1.
For when you're talking about quadrant in math, quadrant is the top right-hand side. So we're going to talk. So mathematically, we're going to start in quadrant 2, which is actually strong theism here. Okay, if you know math, because quadrant 1 is the top right, quadrant 2 is your top left, quadrant 3 is your bottom left, and quadrant 4 is your bottom right. Right.
We might be best to stick with top left, top right.
All right, all right, fair enough. So top. How about we just say
even if you're right.
All right, so we'll go with strong theism there. Okay.
Yeah.
So that position, BP, what do you want to call that? And again, you don't have to stick with any of this stuff. This is just to see where it goes.
Yeah.
BP, what do you want to call that?
Strong theism. Right.
Okay. How about, would you just call it theism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could further classify. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
All right. So let's call BP theism, which is, by the way, what I have on my blog here. All right. So the next one over to the right. Actually, let's go down one. No. Let's go across. I'm all over the place. So let's go across to weak atheism, not BP. What do you want to call that?
That would be soft atheism. Might have been easier to go down before across.
All right. What do you want to go down? That sounds weird. Yeah. I was not propositioning you. Oh my God, that's gonna be all place. Steve's sexually harassing the giggler on Discord. Come see.
Talk about propositions and going down.
Yeah, holy crap. Just wait till the haters get a hold of that, right? Because they'll twist anything they can possibly twist.
We can all accept who we are. Let's go down, man.
Yeah, we don't judge. All right, so let's go down. So Q4 believes the existence of God. B, not P. What do you want to call that position?
B, not P would be atheism.
Okay.
I would qualify it as strong potentially, but atheism either way.
Okay, it's strong atheism, or philosophical atheism, or you're going to call that atheism, which, by the way, I call it atheism. I don't know what else to call it. I mean, if you believe there are no gods, that's atheism, right? Whether you believe that's a necessary or sufficient condition is irrelevant. It's still, anybody who believes there are no gods is clearly an atheist, right?
Sorry, trying to block out the background noise. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, a lot of people get confused on that. They're like, well, yeah, but it's like, yeah, that's atheism. All right, so move to Q1. Weak atheism does not believe proposition. You're going to call that. By the way, you post it on Twitter so maybe people can find it and tweak feeling, because that looks much more correct.
Did we go top right there?
We went to the Q1. Weak atheism. Does not believe the existence of God, not BP.
I mean, I'm personally, I don't know, like, that we talked about this earlier about how that really doesn't tell you anything about somebody. But I guess if we have to label it, I'd say something in, atheism somewhere in that category.
Okay, I agree. It doesn't tell you anything, but you agree that Lacktheist and the Atheist Community of Austin and American Atheist, they call that atheism. They say they say that is they say more than that. They say that is a necessary and sufficient condition to be atheist.
Sorry, I disconnected for a bit.
They claim merely not believing is sufficient and necessary and sufficient to be atheist. But they're going to call that position atheist as well, right?
Right, and I think that's where I get confused on your chart, because it seems like it has as much explanatory power as like the believe statements, but it really doesn't, right?
Well, this is actually in Tree Feline's chart, but yeah. Well, let's finish this. So let's go through it first. So we have theism on the top, atheism on the bottom, atheism on the top right, right? Because now there's two atheist positions, right? BP and not BP. They're claiming both, right? Or atheist, right?
Sure.
This is the lack theist or the American atheist or the atheist community of Austin, the Matt Dillahunties. They're claiming Q1 and Q4 here are both atheist, right? So now look at Q3.
Wait.
Matter of fact, Tree Feline, can I put this in my blog so people can see it? And I'll, of course, give you credit. But I think it's really good, and I think that if people go and see it in the blog, maybe they can see what we're talking about. I'll add it at the very bottom, if you're okay with that.
Are we looking at not B, not P?
Yeah, the quadrant 3.
Is that 3? I thought it was 4.
Quadrant. Well, we're going by a Tree Feline's news thing. If you look for her, what she just posted.
Well, hold on.
The bottom left or bottom right. I'm sorry.
I'm quickly redrawing that chart I made in a more usable fashion. I think I'll have it for you in a second.
Okay. I gotta see where I save this now. Save image as downloads. That makes sense. I saved it in my download folder. Huh. Silly me. Goes to download.
See if I can upload this.
But I can't seem to find it. Why can't I find it?
I'm not sure if this because I switched some of the quadrant.
So to continue the conversation while you're looking, the weak atheism position, the not P that we were looking at. Well, that's what I guess we would call it, weak theism. I mean, that's what you wrote, and it makes sense, but like, I don't know. It sounds weird to say.
Right, because the reason why it sounds weird is because we've been conditioned, and rightfully so, I think, to accept theism as somebody who believes there's no gods. Right? You don't have a problem with that. But all of a sudden, when we start changing it from atheism, which is normatively somebody who believes there's no gods, we start changing that, then we have some problems. And so,
is there a best chat to put this in?
Put it in general, I guess.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm just trying to figure out how to download this and save this because I'm not finding it. Let me see if I can put it in my C drive.
I might have exposed one of the problems with the first diagram.
And I know that you said you labeled it on your paper or your blog that weak theism because they labeled the negation or the
negation of BP is weak atheism, so the negation of B not P would be weak theism by the same token.
Right. So I guess neither of those really then I guess neither of those can make sense.
Well, I mean, it's not so much to make sense. It's just that if you want to allow one thing, you want to allow that the atheism merely to be the belief that God does not exist, then you have to allow theists to say, well, okay, if you have that as anybody who doesn't accept the proposition of God exists as an atheist, then anybody who doesn't accept the proposition there are no gods is a theist by the same exact argumentation. There is no difference to be had there. And that's where the special pleading fallacy charge comes in, because they are saying, well, we can do this, but the theist can't. Image by Intrigue Feline. Thank you, Intrigue Feline.
Okay, I see it, because I thought, like, when I started reading this, I wasn't aware that was actually your aim for the paper, was to prove the special pleading fallacy. So that's why you put those labels in there.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing. I'm trying to. I don't hold to these terms, right? I mean, I'm just trying to show that if you hold to these terms, and you don't allow a theist to say, "Oh, okay, what's this? You merely lack a belief God exists, but you don't believe there are no gods. You are a theist." Now, you and
Here's
I
what
would
holds
say,
with
yeah,
my
we
diagram.
don't accept that, right? For the same reason why I don't accept weak atheism as being atheist, right?
That holds exactly to the logical diagram I just posted.
And let me see if this worked here. It did work. Yay. So it's in there. Thank you. Yeah. Image by intrigue feline.
And
Perfect.
thank you, Oshkosh, for your much better graphical.
Yeah, Oshkosh had a good one too, and I don't know where he
Yeah.
put it. I lost it, but I saw one he did, and it looked right.
There's one in the general chat. Brings in knowing versus believing.
Oh, is it general? Oh, that's right. I forgot. That was Malpass's thing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course that's the same one I used, Dr. Malpass's. So anyways, by the way, anybody else want to come on in and try to challenge this? Because I don't think anybody showed it to be wrong. I think we're good to go.
So the idea is that not believing not P implies theism.
Using the scheme, well, no, not believing not P using the schema that the lack theist is using. That means that a theist could say that is theism. They don't have to.
If you look at the last quadrant I put up, it seems to necessarily include it.
Not
logically.
Not P? No, because not BP doesn't include necessarily that you believe there's no gods, right? So why would not P by necessity include the hard theism?
If you look at the column row headings.
Yeah. Weak doesn't imply strong, right? So let me type it out for you here.
Yeah, strong implies weak. Weak doesn't imply strong.
All right, so look at what I'm writing here. That holds true, right? Let me put it in stream chat so people can actually see it on the outside. So let me go to stream chat here. Wait, am I on stream chat?
Again, I want to really.
Oops. Okay. Let me go to. Yeah, I'm in stream chat. So let me see if that sees the outside, and therefore BP entails does not. But the converse doesn't hold, right? Does not entail.
Yes.
BP and not BP does not entail. Okay, for the same reasoning, right? I mean, so the converse doesn't hold. The way I usually write that in metalogic is, and this is just my metalogical way of writing it. I'll show you, and then while you guys go on with this, and then you can check it out after I read it. But anyways, does anybody want to add to this? Because like I said, I don't think anybody's actually defeated the argument, because it makes sense when you look at it, right?
Yeah, a positive claim, like it suggests a negative claim has to be connected to it. But if you do a negative claim, then that's it. That's full stop after that, unless you add more to it.
Yeah, that's why negative claims are kind of vague, right? When somebody says, well, I just merely lack a belief. Okay, what is that telling me? And nothing. But if you want to call lacking a belief atheist, then okay, if you lack a belief theism, right? If you lack a belief if you lack a belief atheist position that there are no gods, that you're a theist. So
I think I just got the gist of Feline's Venn diagram, that strong is always going to entail weak, but not.
Yeah, so that's how I write it methodologically.
Or whether it be P or not P, strong entails weak, but not the converse.
Right, and that's how I write it. I'll just put this in the live chat too, in case you can't see it. But methodologically, that's how I write it, which would be read as believes not P entails does not believe P, but does not believe P does not entail believes not P. And that's the easy way of saying it is, look, if I believe there are no gods, that entails I do not believe there is one, right? But if I do not believe there is one, that doesn't necessarily entail that I believe there are none. Simple as that.
And I just really hope if there was anybody who started this really as confused as I was, I hope they were able to follow along and figure this thing out as I was.
That's the whole point of these things, man. That's what I like to hear when somebody goes, I get it, because they took the time. Because I tell you, Giggler, do you know how many people from the ACA and the Matt Dillahunties go, oh, well, Steve's wrong by fiat. And yet they don't tell me why. They're like, okay, they don't even take the time to learn the argument. And when I have somebody who doesn't even take the time to learn the argument, they can't say that the argument's wrong. Because I've had people say, well, it's wrong. Okay, why? Oh, because it is. Why? I mean, the guy I'm talking to next week, the atheist dude, the one that has a big atheist I think he has like a division or whatever the hell they call him. I don't know, whatever a regional director or something. He doesn't even understand these arguments, and yet he thinks they're wrong, and he keeps throwing out fallacy after fallacy after fallacy. He's accused me of 5 fallacies the other day, and he got them wrong. As a matter of fact, the intrigued feline, she actually noted them, and she actually said she actually showed the 5 fallacies that he got wrong. And so intrigued feline, he's the one I'm talking to next week. He thinks this is wrong, but he can't explain why. And then the first questions I want to ask is, well, you explain the argument first, right?
I can't wait for that. That sounds really exciting. But also, I wanted to say to anybody in the chat listening, if you still don't get this and you're afraid that Steve might talk over your head, I was afraid of that. I would have asked him earlier. But if you still don't get it, I'm Mr. Serious. You can DM me. I'm on Twitter. I will do my damnedest to try to explain it the way I have just understood it. And
Yay.
hopefully that'll help you out. So come to me. I'm I don't bite. I'll help you out.
He nibbles. Yeah, by the way, in Tree Feline, you posted that chart that I have, epistemology and ontology versus knowledge and beliefs. And by the way, I hope that's right. I haven't had anybody really check that. It seems to be correct, but I get very nervous when I haven't had it actually checked by a professional. But it seems to be correct.
Hey, can I ask a quick follow-up question?
Yeah.
Personally, Steve?
Yes.
Can you put yourself in one of the 4 quadrants?
I am.
Or maybe 2 of them.
I am in quadrant 1 and quadrant 3.
Okay. I had a feeling.
Yeah, that's agnosticism.
Just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, that's agnostic. Yeah. And by the way, just FYI, I got mentioned in another paper. Yay. Dr. Lachelt wrote a paper, and it was published in, what's the name of the let me see here. Let me find it real quick. It was published in Perspectives of Science and Christian Faith, which is a reputable journal. Dr. Lachelt is a PhD in geology, specializing in physics, geological physics, especially things dealing with diffusion rates and solid state physics. A really nice guy. He is a Christian, but he is one of those Christians that believes science comes first. He wrote a paper about a topic we talked about on my channels with Dr. Henke about rate, which is the Youngers. Remember back in the day, the Youngers did this studies to try to determine the age of the Earth using things like radiometric dating, helium diffusion rates, and radium halos. And it's called the radioisotopes and the age of the Earth. And anybody who's ever looked at their methodological approach can see that's flawed. But I had him on, Dr. Lachelt, and I had Dr. Henke on for 8 hours over two periods of time, or 2 shows, and we eviscerated the young Earth creationist model, just eviscerated Dr. Humphreys. We gave Dr. Humphreys a chance to respond. He wrote a thing to the Journal of Creation where he mentioned me and some stuff, but Dr. Lachelt recognized his math to be completely wrong, and he wrote a paper to a well-established Christian journal that's dedicated to science, and it's published now. And he specifically acknowledged me, thanked me, and I'm honored. And he used 2 references from the Great Debate community in my channel as references. So don't think that the Great Debate community doesn't make a difference. We do. We have made differences. And that's the second time I've been mentioned and credited, even though it's not my work. But I mean, I help to facilitate things, and that to me is just amazing.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I was really flattered by that. Maybe one of these days I might be mentioned in another one that from somebody from Reasons to Believe would be nice, because they write papers, and I am working with them now. I'm the only non-scholar I think that they have that's working with them, and I don't know why, but it's cool.
That is cool.
They really like me, and I really like them. I've known them for quite some time, and they like the fact that I'm controversial and that people have been trying to character assassinate me, because they see the same thing happen to Theist, right? And they empathize with that. They're like, the people that go after me are the same people that just throw away Theist arguments by fiat rather than trying to explain why those Theist arguments are wrong. Like we saw with Darn's deity and the Florida man last night. Wow, well, that was bad.
Who won that?
I don't think either did. I mean, Florida man didn't know what the hell DD was talking about, and DD just was running rickshaw out, over him, just destroying him. But that doesn't mean that necessarily Darren DD's arguments were good. It just means that he was talking about things that the Florida man had no idea. And instead of just saying, hey, I don't know about this particular topic, which is fine. You could do that in a debate. That's not an admission of anything. He decided to try to have some very stupid counters, and that made him look really bad. So.
I probably mentioned earlier, I got server muted by him for the first time today.
You did? I think it's all right. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, the best part was that just like 5 minutes before that, I told him a joke that like I got a belly laugh out of him for it. And he even said, I'm going to save that one. That's classic. I love that. And then with me being very non-aggressive, mute.
He's very mercurial. Yeah. You never know where he's going to be. He's just, and of course, he won't come into here. He's scared to death to come into anything that he wants moderated type stuff, right? So he can appeal to the moderator, and that to me is just not how I operate, right? Intrigue Feeling asked me, can you explain why belief in God is not a dichotomous binary position? Agnosticism exists. Yeah, belief P and believe not P are not dichotomous. They're called contradictories. And what that means is that if I have a position where P is true, I can believe P is true. If I have a position where P is false, I believe P is false. But I also have the position I can believe neither. Right? I can choose to say I neither hold the position to be true, and I neither hold the position to be false, even though ontologically one must be the case. But I have no belief on either way. That's why beliefs are not dichotomous like that. Right? And I'll give you a specific example. If I say, hey, Giggler, we're going to use the gumball thing. I say, hey, I got a gumball machine on my desk right now. Is the proposition is the gumballs are odd. Well, you, and I'll just speak for you, can you see if you agree or not? You can't say one way or another whether that you believe or not that the proposition is true or false. How would you have any justification either way, right?
Right.
So your answer would be, well, I don't believe that they're even, but I don't believe they're odd either. I'm agnostic on the proposition. So believing that they're even and believing that they're odd are not dichotomous, because you can choose other, which is I believe neither. What's dichotomous is either you do believe that they're even or you do not believe that they're even. That is a dichotomy. But if you do not believe they're even, there's generally speaking two positions you can have. One, you believe that they're odd, which entails you do not believe they're even, or you have no position either way. This is why we hold things like epistemic dispositions to be pretty basic. Either you believe, you disbelieve, or you suspend judgment, right? I mean, there are other positions as well, like atheist. But I mean, generally speaking, there's believe, disbelieve, or suspend judgment. Yeah.
We talked about Dawkins' 7-point scale, and I vaguely recall you saying you didn't like that scale.
I hate it.
Okay. Yeah. And so, like, if I could, and if I can't, tell me I can't. That's fine. If I could put a small twist on the gumball.
You could do it. I'm here to be challenged, man. Whenever I hear people saying, well, Steve doesn't like to be challenged. Steve doesn't, I'm like, what the hell do people get this shit from? This is what I do. I love when people come in and try to challenge me. That's my favorite thing. This narrative that can't be corrected or can't be challenged or anything like that, that's so 180 degrees opposite than the reality.
I've heard from people that I'm constantly apologizing for saying offensive things and follow that by not saying anything offensive.
Yeah, I'm not Darwin. So say what you got to say. Do it, man. I don't give a shit.
So the gumball question, instead of saying, I believe it's odd, if we say, I believe it's 4,327, right? That's a different question, right? So if I'm not saying I believe it's God, if I'm saying I believe there's a God and his name is Yahweh, his son is Jesus, his stepfather's a carpenter, he died on a cross, that's a different question than I believe there's a God.
But one entails the other. Right? If I say I believe the number of gumballs is 3, that does mean you have to be be rational that you hold the position that they're odd.
You can, yeah, absolutely. But we're talking about now the question. I believe there's 4,327. Now, again, I don't know how many gumballs are in there, but depending on the size of the jar and if I can count the rows and columns, I can come to a pretty strong conclusion that might be plausible or utterly implausible.
Okay, but it's just the problem you're running into is it's just as much justification it could be even too, right? There could be 4,062 or 4,063. One's even, one's odd.
If somebody says, do you believe it's this specific number? No, I don't.
Right.
And if you asked me to bet my mortgage on that, Yeah, I mean, if I had good reason to know that you hadn't pre-counted the gumballs, yeah, I'd bet the mortgage on it. If you're just taking a stab, you're going to be wrong, and I'm going to win that.
Yeah, well, you're talking about justificatory reasons why you think it's. You're saying I understand your argument. You're saying, hey, Christians are saying out of all these different gods, this is the one God. What's the likelihood of that one God being out of all of them? In other words, what's the likelihood of that one gumball being this? The one gumball that you pick out of all the other gumballs? But the problem that you run into is they're not all gumballs are created equally in their eyes, right? These are not just here's a gumball, there's a gumball. Here's Christianity that has years worth of documentation according to them, right? According to their justification, as opposed to something like a modern day type religion, right? That just, for example, like Jehovah's Witness. Some people want to say, well, Jehovah's Witness is complete crap, but they're still Christian, right? Or Scientology or something, right? The difference is you're dealing with things that are not all sides are the same. They're not exactly the same type of gumball. But I see your argument, though.
Do you want to hear why Dawkins muted me?
Sure.
I can give you the reason that he used to do it, or I can give you my theory why it happened.
Well, do both.
Or maybe both if you have time. Okay, yeah.
I don't know.
My theory on why it happened was I told him, and I honestly believe I'm being sincere in this. I told him, I'm an atheist married to a Christian wife. If you could convince me Christianity is true, you'd make my home life a lot easier. And that's sincere. Like, if you could convince me Christianity is true and I can go to church with her, it'd be a lot easier to raise our 3 kids. That would make it really easy. But then I suggested that even if he convinced me Christianity is true, his form and my wife's form might still be at odds to the extent that it wouldn't help at all versus me being an atheist, right? He's a Trinitarian. She's a oneness of God person.
Mm-hmm.
That is just butting heads in a way that we can't come together.
Sure.
That's why I think he ultimately wanted to get rid of me, because I kind of hinted at that. But then he asked me, he was going into a logic thing, and he said, if you didn't feed your kids, what would happen? Well, if I didn't feed my kids, I guess my wife would feed them. And so I kind of played the logic game. And honestly, I wasn't trying to fuck with him, but we were talking. Once you sort of shift into the whole epistemology type nonsensical philosophy stuff, you really have to get really clear on what we're saying, right? And I was trying to do that. And then he just used that excuse to just shut me up.
Yeah. Darwin's has always been like that, right? And it's kind of funny because people that have followed me for many, many years, I've never, ever muted, booted, or kicked anybody out merely for disagreeing, right? Anybody who says that otherwise is just absolutely wrong. But he will, if he thinks you're a challenge to him, and you're disagreeing with him, and no matter how polite you are, he will find a way to shut down communication. And I've seen atheists do the same thing. I've been polite as honey to some atheist, and okay, well, here's the argument. Can you just kind of show me where it goes wrong? And I get berated. I get called all kinds of things. And that's when I shut down the conversation, right? And that's when I will mute and remove people, because at that point they're just not engaging. But
right.
I look for people that will try to argue and try to find issues. And this is why it's really weird when people say, well, anybody that can refute Steve, he blocks. Well, no, if they can refute me, then why haven't they? Because their arguments have been poor, and other people looked in and said, yeah, these people don't know what the hell they're talking about. I've had, Dr. Even Malpass even do say, yeah, they're just completely wrong, Steve. Why worry about it? He's even told me, why care what they think? And I'm like, I don't care what they think. But if people are going to use those arguments to say, well, this person, disproves Steve, they have to show that argument to be sound, and it's not. Their logic is flawed, and it has been shown to be flawed. So I look forward to when somebody comes in and can actually give me a good run.
Yeah, I was baffled by that. As long as you're talking to somebody and what they're saying to you is, listen, like I did with you earlier, right? Listen, I'm not getting it and I want to clarify. As long as you think the person's legitimately trying to come to an understanding, why do you shut them out, right? That's where...
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is where, honestly, it confirms my atheism, because when it comes to believers, and maybe I'm listening to the wrong ones, but they don't want to have a conversation.
Not all. I mean,
disbelievers do.
No, that's not. You're from the ACA Discord. You've seen them shut out me and people that want to talk about
yes,
just as
yes,
much.
I have. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, we happen to like the ACA Discord because
sure.
I like IX over there. He's a great admin.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, and he's really knowledgeable, and he doesn't shut me out. And you know what's funny is he actually agrees with me on I think pretty much all this stuff. He just doesn't obviously want to make it too public. But I mean, he'll tell you that I'm not full of shit. You know?
Yeah.
But you get Matt
I
Dillahunt.
really like his ability to do that.
Yeah. Matt Dillahunt just be like, well, Steve's just wrong. Arn be like, Steve's just wrong. Oh, okay, great. Can you show me why? I really asked him. I mean, I really wanted to know.
Yeah.
But I can't get anywhere with some people, and it's just like shit. It's mind-boggling. Because look, if you're gonna claim the high ground, you want to be rational, and like Arn, like that one time, he said the same thing. Not B, not P is a double negation, and Ozzy had to step in and go, no, Arn, that's not a double negation. Right? But he was so adamant about it, right? Like, Steve, you're just wrong here because that's a double negation. Well, no, it's not. Stop it.
It was really interesting in that within 20 minutes of them server muting me, I got a notification from the server owner saying, "Hey guys, tell your friends about our server. We need more members." Well, of course you do.
Wow.
You're fucking silencing everyone.
Wow. I haven't had to boot anybody so far.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, the trolls who know that they're going to get booted, they won't come in here, right? And they're not welcome, and they're going to get gone. But anybody else, I love new people, right? I love new people that even if they want to run bad arguments, things that have already been disproved, let them give it a shot, right? But yeah, so far it's been...
Trolling's a weird thing, right? You can't expect to come into a room and just derail a conversation. And if you keep doing that, we have to get rid of you, right? We can't have a server if you're doing that. The other one is somebody who's just simply being disingenuous and choosing a side they want to disagree on. Although that kind of person, depending on their attitude, if they're honest about doing it and they just want to challenge your beliefs, honestly, that's actually fine. I'm good with that.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's what I look forward to. And this is why people that watch this, if you ever hear anybody say, well, Steve doesn't like to be criticized or challenged, or he'll boot anybody who disagrees, just tell them they're full of shit. Just absolutely BS. Because I encourage that, and I always have. And anybody who says otherwise is completely lying. Because there's not one person I've ever blocked merely for disagreeing. At least not to my knowledge. I mean, if that has ever happened to you, let me know, and I will correct that. But I can't think of a single person in 8 years that's ever happened to. I don't know why it would ever happen.
Yeah, I feel like I was challenging you in some sense today. And I didn't feel like you were trying to silence me. I felt like you were trying to listen to me, which
yeah, well, I was trying to explain
encouraging.
To you. Yeah, well, you were trying to you were figuring out
refreshing.
Just as like I was making sure that I was trying to get it across properly. So that worked out well for both of us, sure. But I don't take it as a challenge. Oh, good.
That's the point of a conversation, man. We both learn something. We both profit from it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even care
whether we wind up agreeing or not.
Right. I wouldn't even care if somebody said, "Hey, Steve, you're wrong in here. Let me show you why." I'd be like, "Okay." But when they say you're wrong, and I ask them why, they say because, you're done. Yeah. You know, it's just who's going to waste their time with that.
Yeah.
But anyways, speaking of getting people to join the Discord, I have put the link to join. It should work. Come in when you can, because I got to give you roles. So, and I'll probably have a few more mods here and there as we get bigger. It's got about, I think, 200 people on this particular Discord, if I'm not mistaken, give or take. And I have been editing it out a little bit. But 200 is not bad. But I think I've gone through and I've cleared it out, and I've given the right people mods, and given I have 3 admins, which is going to be Bullinator, Dave, and I guess Scott Gurton wanted still to be an admin, which is fine. Let's see here. But anybody else want to come in? I'll give you guys roles, so you can at least come into this particular chat if you want. And you know what? I've been ignoring the live chat. I'm sorry too. George says true, and I've disagreed with Steve like 1,000 times. So what? Yeah. Guess what? It happens. I'm one of those people that I expect people to disagree with, but I also expect the people to listen if they disagree. And I got to tell you,
is there a roles channel set up yet?
Roles channel?
I didn't see it. Yeah,
what do you mean?
Where you can choose your roles on.
No, I have.
We have age and religion and all that.
No, the mods have to give. I meant the roles as far as your be able to speak.
Oh, okay.
Stuff like that.
All right.
I haven't set any of that stuff up, and I don't think I'm going to by religion or anything like that, or by.
One of the good ones is One of the rules is like notifications for things. So when you do something like this, you can notify people. So
Yeah,
I'd see
yeah.
that.
Well, I might have Boulinet look into that. He's my admin guy, or Dave McGinnis.
Okay.
Sure.
Before we continue, I have to go. I'm really glad I was able to be here for this one because I had a really tough time understanding this specifically. And thank you very much for taking the time to explain it and answering all my questions. I hope it was a good learning experience for people out there who are in my same position. But I have to go, so I had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me here. And make sure you like and subscribe, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Is. I do appreciate it.
See you later.
See ya.
Yeah, I was talking about mods actually in the Discord, but Riley, I give you back chat mods too. I'm going to limit it, but you are one of the best mods I've ever had, so I'm going to give you GDC mods on my channel. I just don't want it to be like in a sea of blue, you know.
Yeah.
All right, but anyways, I'm going to wrap it up, I guess. So, I do appreciate you guys helping me walk through this argument. Again, the link to the blog is in the video description. If you think there's a problem with it, contact me. Let me know what your problem is. I mean, I know the guy I'm talking to next week, Randolph, he's like, well, I've already seen a flaw in the logic. Then he said something really incredibly weird. And I'm like, that's not an argument. That's not a, he's talking about, oh, you're hypothetical here. And I'm like, oh my goodness, no, this is bad. Just show me the logic wrong.
If I can come up with a good Venn diagram, and I don't know if I can, but if I do, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, that's fine. Oshkosh Pagash, he put a great diagram in that has knowledge included in it, but that's the diagram that I use from Dr. Malpass. His view 2, I believe, from his In Use of Reason blog.
Steve, if you're wrapping things up, what kind of wrapping paper are you going to use?
Non-Christmassy, because it's either Christmas or non-Christmas.
Fair enough.
Well, I was hoping to get more questions from live chat, but again, I know we've gone over this many times. This was just a reformulation of it, and when I write a blog, I want to talk about it to see if anybody can actually find some problems with it. And I'm happy to correct. I mean, like the Intrigue Feline found like a spelling error and a capitalization error or something, which is fine too. I correct those. But as far as any actual counter to the argument or any defeater, I think even Intrigue Feline has to agree that the argument's pretty sound, and I think she has. So, but if you do not, let me know. But I want people to spread this argument around. I mean, I want people to ask more. People that hold to the position that weak atheism is merely atheism, then okay, then weak theism is actually theism. So if you don't accept the position there are no gods, you are a theist, or at least have to allow that to be the case, right? I think that's more of the thing. The more argument is you have to allow a theist to actually do that. Now, why theists don't do that, I get, right? Because it's not advantageous for theists to do that because that's not their epistemic position, right? To a theist, they want to say they believe in gods, right? They want to hold that position. Why atheists are the counter to that, I don't get that. I think an atheist would want to say, yeah, I believe there are no gods, right? If you're gonna take a position on it. Theists are happy to take a position there is a god. I think it's kind of silly when atheists, most of them who I do think actually believe there are no gods, try to take the weak position just because they've been told that's what atheism is. I think that does a disservice to atheism. I think it does a disservice to skepticism, and it certainly does a disservice to critical thinking when you incorporate a clear fallacy of special pleading, as I pointed out in my argument.
It's rather silly, honestly, as if you don't think gods exist, why are you defining atheism as not believing in gods?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, a lot of them merely want to take the label atheist because they've been trained to think that if you don't believe in the gods, you're an atheist. But that's not the case, right? I mean, that's not the case ubiquitously in literature. And so it's fine if they want to do that, but then they have to accept the baggage that comes along with it. And my arguments have always been, here's the baggage, explain to me away the baggage. Like, here's the baggage for special pleading. Explain to me why you're not committing a fallacy. Nobody's ever explained to me why they're not. Nobody.
To me, it honestly makes their position weaker than if they just said, no, there's no gods. It's honestly silly.
I think it makes it stronger if they say there's no gods. I think the position makes it stronger. If they say there's no gods, it's a much stronger position and justifiable as well. But
so
If you're,
You're actually trying to help them, honest. In this.
all everything I do is to help the atheist, believe it or not. My arguments don't really help the theist. What my arguments do is they take away ammo from the theist. It takes away their arrows from their quivers. If atheists just listen to me and would recognize that my arguments are there to actually help them, and that by taking a stronger position, if they actually hold it, the theist will not be able to run these types of counter arguments like your special pleading and be right about it, right? But it has become very dogmatic in our skeptic community that, atheism must be this way only because Matt Dillahunty and Arn Ross say so. But when you ask them for the evidence, you ask them for the citations, you ask them for the logic, they have none to be provided. Never have they ever provided the actual logic for their stance, ever. But it weakens position if you think there's no gods and you try to play hide the ball and say, well, I merely lack a belief. That is weakening your position. That is hide the ball. Kimo asked, when will I be talking with Mr. Richardson? That will be sometime next week, and it will be streamed. Yes. He said that was okay. So, all right. Anything else, guys? Last minute wrap ups? Anything to fill us in on? No news on the Non Sequitur show. Still waiting for the judge to throw away Kyle's motion. He will dismiss it. Mark my words. 3:42 Pacific time. Whatever on this video. 12:27, 95 minutes in. It will be dismissed. It's poorly written, and it's just wrong. He was properly served. That will be dismissed. What we're worried about is when we're going to set up a hearing so he can talk to the judge and find out why he has failed to comply with the orders. That's going to be the important thing. So, and so many people have gotten so many things wrong, but we'll go through all that eventually. I know a lot of people are asking me, but I'm like, look, we will do a summary when more is said and done. But right now, I think most people can figure out who's not telling the truth and who is. So with that, guys, good night. And I'm going to be doing something this weekend, hopefully, with, I think, Nicholas Suter, maybe. So looking forward to that. And then we got Caffeine Corner. We got Ben from Drunken Peasants on next Caffeine Corner, I think, guys. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
No rum and coke this weekend.
I might have a rum and coke on Saturday. Yeah, I'll probably have a rum. I think we deserve a rum and coke, don't we?
I'm on call this week.
Oh, you're on call?
Yeah.
So you can't drink? I don't even drink during rum and cokes anymore.
I'm not supposed to drink.
Messenger reveals. Come in. Are you in here? I give you rolls. Yes. Oh, I see you. Oh, okay. You have rolls now. Boom. Done. There you go. Awesome. And I give the people that other people. So I know I saw a bunch of people come in, and I'm giving their rolls right now. Before I leave. All right. Just give all the people that joined rolls in the last 20 minutes or so. Sorry about that. I wasn't paying attention. Do you guys want to come into the voice just for a second, or see if you guys have anything to add to this?
I'm still working out who's who, so I can't really add roles.
Do you have mods? Oh, yeah, you have mods. So Spacey Cabbage, Sisyphus, Jigsaw, Messenger Reveals, Moment of Top, Damon E. I give you all roles. If you don't have rolls, you won't be able to see where we're at. So,
I wonder what will happen first: the heat death of the universe, or the Steve haters getting hate boner erectile dysfunction.
Probably the heat death of the universe. I mean, we've got people going around for 3 years, dude. 3-4 years. I mean, that's consistency. I mean, and all they've done is just prove what I've said for years, that these people are very spiteful, mean, trollish people. And it's a shame when you try to befriend people and they treat you as a friend just to turn around and stab you in the back to virtue signal to a group. And it's happened. It happens a few times, but you have to take the bad with the good. And every time something bad happens, I notice something good happens as well. I don't think there's a balance, but I mean, me mentioned in Dr. Lascelles' paper, I mean, that's just amazing. When Wayne Fillmore mentioned, wrote a blog and it got published in BioLogos, that's amazing. My name is being out there as making a difference. The Great Debate community has made a difference. The trolls, they have not made a difference, because all they want to do is bash on people and hate people and target them and cyberbully them and send them death threats, send their friends death threats, and then say horrible things and try to character assassinate. That's not the culture that I wanted to be a part of 3 years ago. And it's the same people. It is legit the same people. that are still around. And I left them for those reasons because I saw them doing this to other people. And I said, no, I will not be a part of this. And so they decided to target me, and they've targeted me ever since with character assassination. That's the fact of the matter. Bullinator, Breads, they saw the same thing. They left for the same reasons. That's why I hold them to be dear friends and be people of the highest ethical standards, as opposed to people that I know are not. So,
and we can even see that with your former co-host.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Who did he turn to, right? I mean,
Yeah.
right? I mean, for Pete's sake. A tree figure line correct Venn diagram. Let me look at this real quick. The problem I have with that is that if you look on Malpass's diagram, strong atheism is going to be on the outside, right? If you're looking at, I mean, I guess you're doing it as a Venn diagram, but yeah, so strong atheism is a subset of weak atheism, not a subset of agnosticism, but weak atheism is a subset of agnosticism. Those would have overlap there. It'd be a complete overlap on agnosticism of weak atheism and weak theism. So agnosticism would be green and yellow combined, whatever that is. But other than that, I think it's right. I think you just need to change the color for agnosticism to be whatever green, yellow would be, because that's an overlap. And then you would have to throw in knowledge in there in the strong theism, make another circle on strong theism and strong atheism, and put K, P, and K not P. That'd be your subset of knowledge. So knowledge being that. So strong theism or strong atheism would be a subset of knowledge. Weak atheism would be a subset of strong atheism, a subset of knowledge, and go down from there, because beliefs are a subset of knowledge, right? Or knowledge is a subset of belief. So let's see here. Strong atheism here is a subset of weak. See, here's weird, because she has strong atheism as a subset of weak atheism. Right? Wouldn't it be the other way around? Now, if knowledge is a subset of belief, then strong atheism has to be a subset of... Yeah, I'll work on it. Yeah, circles are different. Yeah. Let me see here.
I think she's got the circles right.
Yeah, I think
strong atheism implies weak atheism. Therefore, that circle must lie within weak atheism.
So, weak atheism but isn't weak atheism a subset of? No, strong atheism would be a subset of weak atheism.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where would be knowledge? Because beliefs are a subset of knowledge. Where would you put knowledge on here?
Well, that's where this beautiful Venn diagram
Fails.
might need some tweaking.
Yeah, because I don't know where knowledge would be appearing. This is why I like this landscape version that Malpass does, because it has knowledge, it has strong theism, strong atheism, weak agnosticism, all in a linear scale, rather than to try doing it as a Venn diagram, you know. But I'll think about it. It gives me something to think about. Okay. So, but I love the fact that Intrigue Feel Like does this kind of stuff and tries. It's more than most people, right? Because I think she's right, but I don't know when.
Beautiful work, by the way.
Right? Yeah, she's smart. She's smart for a feline.
You should see my whole Excel sheet on that.
You thought I was going to say female, didn't you, you sexist bastards? Hey, Messenger Reveals. By the way, hey, bud. Glad to see you. And hey, George. Yeah, Riley's right. I mean, since believing in God doesn't exist implies lacking a belief in a God, but lacking a belief does not imply believing in negation. Yeah, I agree with that. But do you want to add anything, Messenger Reveals? I saw you in the live chat. You have to unmute. Or Michael Jackson. Saw you in here too. Nope. I'm trying to give everybody to have their say before I end this. But I guess not. All right. Good night, guys. See you tomorrow.